Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Eddie Marcus here again, spokesman and advocate of basic human rights for all people. I was thinking a moment ago about life and about living, and I came up with some stuff that I really wanted to share with the public, but not perhaps the community that goes to church and who believes in certain conduct, don't believe in cursing, foul language, and that's distasteful to you. And for me to deliver that message, I would have to exclude you. I'm one of those guys who preach in the streets, who go into bars and see people everywhere. And I take God's message wherever I am, and I'll go wherever people are. And I really wanted to speak to them in the language that they can understand. In other words, something like I wanted to say to them, and I decided not to say it like that, but rather say it like this. When I compare living, every level of it, from the highest to the lowest, and what I mean by that is from people who can basically do whatever they want to do to people who can't hardly do anything that they want to do. That when you really consider it and compare that with the life of the original plan, this life isn't worth living. But the people don't know that. They don't know that. They think that their way of living is the best that there is. They know that it's not perfect. They know that there are statuses, there are different levels, there are classes. They know this. They know that some people live suffering, and they can accept that. And they consider that their way is the best way. This is the thought of Americans. This is the thought of the Russians. This is the thought of the Chinese. Everybody think that their way is the best way. And they have been trained to think like that. America the beautiful. God bless America. We are number one. We have to lead the way. We are the most powerful nation on the face of the earth. That's what we say. But I want you to know that the Chinese say the same thing. The Russians say the same thing. Other nations say the same thing. So when you're walking down your streets feeling all buff because you've been led to believe a certain way, you're not alone. Other nations and their people believe the same way. They are puffing. And yet, I ask, what good is it? What good is it? And I have to answer my own question. If it's all you know, you will do whatever is required to maintain existence in it for as long as you possibly can. You'll pick up a gun and go fight on a battlefield, killing people you don't know anything about, just doing it because somebody told you it was the right thing to do for your country. And you'll go out there and kill men, women, babies, and old folk, not even thinking about it, and justify it as being okay because your nation told you to do it. You can come right back home and catch somebody beating up your children or your wife, and you beat them, catch them and beat them, and do whatever you can, even kill them, protecting yours, and they will put you in prison for the rest of your life. What is that? What is that? You can kill when I say kill. Ain't that something? You can kill when I say kill. In this situation, God better not tell you to kill. but they can. And you will do it, knowing that you might get killed. But it's a chance you got to take because you want to live here. And even though many of you do a lot of suffering, can't find jobs, go to college, can't find decent jobs, can't pay your loans back, go through all these different changes. Even though you experience these kinds of things, you still will hang close to this way. And when I look at the world, and I look at those who say they represent God, and then I look at the world, and I understand why the world is like the world. But then I look for those people who would represent God in a magnificent kind of way, in the kind of way that changes nations. And every last one of them in another world. They were shipped out of here with bullets. They were too good to be here in these bodies, in those bodies, on this planet during these times. They were too good. The powers that be here would not allow that to happen. And so they were marked and they were killed. They were killed so that you would remain a slave, so that they would remain your masters. They knew that if these who they killed stayed here, you would begin to see the light. You would begin to understand that when people come across an ocean, on an inner tube, or on a log, trying to get away from the hail, and it's a hail worse than any hail you ever talked about in a Bible. Because if a person would get on a log or inner tube and try with their kid and try to cross an ocean to get to a better place, it's some hell that they're running from. But when they do that, can you imagine what it must feel like to cross that ocean only to find out that where you're trying to go there's a big wall put up and you can't get through? And the people on the other side are satisfied with that. They want you to go somewhere else and fill out some papers and wait for years trying to get over there. Isn't this something? When you compare the rough times, and all of you know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't care what part of the world you're living in. And all you have to do, I say all you have to do like it's something simple. It's really not simple. It's very complicated. It seems as though it's simple, but it's very complicated. Let me give you an example. If you are an American, say at any high school or at any local business or a professional, just in the world, in America. Now, if I ask you right now to take this that I've given you and translate it into French, and you've never had any French, you would not be able to do it. If I said translate it into any other language that you have not been trained in, you would not know what to do with it. You wouldn't even know what I'm talking about. So the way of living in America is what you know. It's all you know. The way of living in any other parts of the world is all that those people know. And those who are lucky enough to cross that water, cross that desert, cross that break, and are received in some location, that is a happy person. It doesn't matter how far they had to swim, how far they had to walk. It seems as if God has reached out and liberated them, touched their hand, and now they feel like they're loved. Now compare that with a wall Now, even when somebody reaches out their hand and helps them, it's nothing compared to God's way. And as I was saying, though God's way to me is a very simple matter, it's very complicated to you. And I say that you'd have to be born again. And when I say born again, I basically mean that the way of life as we understand it, based upon our exposure in it and with it, that makes us where we are right now. Being born again means that you have been exposed spiritually to a society that's different than this, a way of life that's different than this. Oh, the things that are important in this life are the same things that's important in that spiritual life. The only difference is it works in the spiritual life and it doesn't work over here in the material life. It works in the spiritual life because they do it the right way. It doesn't work in the material life because they try to do it according to people who don't know the way to do it right and who really don't care if it's done right. They just want to make sure that they come out on the good end. That's all, that they come out on the good end. That's the way of thinking in the world. When they talk about coming out of the world, that doesn't mean can't drive a car, can't have a beautiful home, can't live in a beautiful world, can't party, can't have a good time. No, it means the lying, the cheating, the stealing, the killing, the cowardice, the slavery, and the being in bondage and all that kind of stuff. That's worldly stuff. So you put that junk off and you don't take on any of that anymore. You put on all righteousness, which means you stand up against anything like that that comes at you. You stand up for it, and you don't just stand up for yourself. Anybody else that's having this stain reaching out to them, then it is the duty of truth. It is the duty of light to shine in the spaces of darkness so that others can wake up. And this is how we eradicate this kind of stuff. Now, I say these things to you knowing that you can't learn a different language overnight unless you really want to do it. I mean, if you really want to do it, you can do it. See, ladies and gentlemen, I'm of the mindset that human beings can fly. But in order to fly, you got to know you can fly. You can't believe it. You got to know you can fly. You got to be able to come off the top of a building or start flying from your standing position just as easy and confidently as you would make your next step if you were walking. Now, the truth of the matter is, in an environment like this, man will jump off a building. If he knows he can fly, he's going to fly. The difference is like this. People around here are not going to see him fly. They're going to see him jump off the building. They're going to see him hit the ground and splat all over the place. They're going to see that because they can't see anything else. Their thinking, their understanding of life is nothing beyond that. So that's what they're going to see. They're going to scoop him up, take him home, go through the process, have his funeral. But in truth, when that guy jumped off that building, he flew just like he knew he was going to fly. And he went and did exactly what he intended to do. But it wasn't a big thing because there were people there just like you here. Could have been you, I'm not sure about that. But they know you can fly too. That's why they're there. They know you can fly. In other words, they have matured beyond this level of consciousness. They are in the state of heavenliness consciousness or divine consciousness. And this is and that doesn't mean that they got perfection. No, they just mean they've left this level. Now, how many levels you go? I say it's unlimited. But anyway, having said that, you can use this information for thinking. just for thinking. But there are other things that's taking place